I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Right.
Fucking thing sucks.
In 5, 4, 3.
Anyone claiming that America's economy is in decline is peddling fiction.
I've abandoned free market principles to save the free market system.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Raising the debt ceilings does not increase our debt. It does not somehow promote profligacy.
I know words. I have the best words. Nobody knows the system better than me, which is why I alone can fix it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Peddling Fiction Podcast. I'm your host, the voice and soul of so-called fiction, Johnny Profita. And back with me to talk about how Trump alone is going to fix it all is Justin Hillbilly Boy Campbell. What's going on over there?
Oh, nothing much. I don't know if he alone is going to fix anything, but at least the Democrats are crying about a lot of the things that he's doing. I'll take that. Speaking of crying, we have a new baby around here who likes to yell. Surprise, surprise! I walked out and found a new baby goat yesterday morning.
Oh, the goats have been up to no good, huh?
So a couple weeks ago, Stephanie said, I think Dixie might be pregnant. Sure, her milk sac dropped. I was like, huh. Well, that's interesting. Like, we didn't think so. We didn't think that the male was able to mate with her because there's a significant size difference. So anyway, and then yesterday I walked out to go feed them, and there's a little baby goat standing there. So apparently, nature finds a way.
Life does find a way. We know that. We've known that since the Jurassic Park days, 1995 or something, 94. What a Jurassic Park.
I also no longer am suffering from an egg shortage. The ducks finally started laying. I think after me talking about if they didn't get going, I was going to start eating these fuckers every day for about a week. They finally realized, oh shit, we better get busy. And now we're getting like anywhere from 4 to 6 eggs a day. So,
dude, I saw like some random, I don't know if it was like an Instagram reel or something. This chick was talking about how you should, I don't know if I probably didn't send it to you. Maybe I did, about how you should own ducks over chickens. Ducks are better than chickens. Like, they produce more eggs. I forget what else she had, like a whole list of fucking things. Why ducks are better.
The eggs are a little bit bigger. They have they have a richer taste to them. I personally, when we've used duck eggs for cooking, I prefer them over chicken eggs. I don't eat eggs. Just like, I don't just like scramble or fry or boil eggs. I don't really like eggs, but I use them for cooking all the time, and I prefer the taste whenever I use them for cooking.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had a duck egg. Can't say that I have, but yeah, I don't eat a lot of eggs either, but yeah, I do use them to make pasta and things like that. I could use a duck or two. I'm probably too lazy to take. Maybe I don't know if she said they're easier to take care of too. Maybe they're cleaner or something.
They are a lot cleaner. The chickens are pretty fucking disgusting. They just shit everywhere, and like the ducks shit as well, but they're a little more neat about it, I guess. Like they tend to like all stick together and shit in the same spot instead. Like when we've got the chickens just out free ranging, they just shit wherever. Like there's just chicken shit everywhere all the time. At least like the ducks kind of stick together and shit in one spot.
Yeah, that's very considerate of them.
Isn't it though? Mm-hmm. Outside of that though, ducks are absolutely assholes. Like they yell at you and they'll try to chase you, and they don't try to chase me anymore, but they'll like chase the kids. Ducks are absolutely assholes.
Well, I know we talked about the egg prices. What's been going on with those a couple of times on the podcast. I didn't send you this article about how orange prices have just crashed the most in half a century, sharpest decline in over 50 years. I don't know what's
Really?
going on with oranges. Do you know anything about that market?
I do know it's about that time of year. So in like around this time of year, things start to warm up in March, or in Florida, where we get a lot of our oranges. I'm assuming it would probably be relatively the same in California. So I don't know. It's possible that this is the right time of year for orange harvest to be starting, and maybe they had a good crop. I don't know. No, I don't. I haven't. I know egg prices have been coming down, but on the other side of it, gas prices have been going up. Not really sure. I haven't been paying attention to what's driving gas up. I know they were Trump. I think we talked about it last week. Like Trump was taking some actions to get egg prices back down and kind of get things more in line with where they ought to be. With that side of stuff, I'm not really sure what's driving gas prices up right now, though.
Maybe it's the threat of the 25% tariff from Donald Trump or anybody that wants to buy Venezuelan oil. Dude, that's another little interesting twist for these tariffs that he's just obsessed with using tariffs to punish countries now, which I mean, I certainly prefer that over us like using our military to influence other countries and or like all this foreign aid that we pour into other countries. Like if I had to choose between the three, I think I would go with this. But I don't know.
It's like you can either get on board and do what we want you to do, or we're going to hit you with a tariff, or we'll like stop sending you money, or we'll send you more money. Like that's not a good option. And then also, yeah, the military threat. That's not like, let's keep that shit out of it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think any of these tariffs have actually substantially gone into place for any extended period of time. Like he's threatened the tariffs. They've said they're putting the tariffs in place, and then a deal gets made. Like I don't think any of these have gone more than like 48 hours where they were in place, and then a deal gets made, and then it's like, okay, well, we'll take that off the table and we'll talk about it some more. And then he'll put like we've got a deadline of 30 or 60 days from now where we'll revisit this. And if we've made the correct negotiations that we want to happen with this, then there won't be tariffs. And if we haven't made headway on this, then the tariffs will go back in place. I don't think any of them have actually done anything yet.
Yeah, I think the only thing you've accomplished with it is, like you said, you kind of put pressure. Like these politicians, they don't want to fucking have to deal with anything, so they'll capitulate if it makes things easier. The idea that any of these tariffs are really gonna bring back manufacturing to the U.S., I think, is an absolute pipe dream. It's just they're way too temperate. Like you said, they're here today, gone tomorrow, here the next day. Nobody can come up with a business plan and is going to invest millions of dollars and years of work into starting up manufacturing something in the U.S. with that much uncertainty. Like if Trump, even if Trump makes it all the way through his term, all these tariffs could be gone as soon as he's out. It'd take more time than that to get anything really substantial up and running in the U.S. Oh, what's up, Mr. Prussia? Catching the live show, yeah. Gas drop here, at least on the East Coast. $3 a gallon. That seems kind of cheap. I haven't bought gas in a while.
It's about $3 a gallon here in the Midwest, and that's actually up. It was around here, it was about $2.75, and just across the river in Kentucky, where they don't have stupid gas taxes like we do here in Indiana, it was around $3.40 or $2.40. And it's come up now. Here on this side, it's up around 312, and on the Kentucky side, it's up around the prices that it had been here. It's up around 260, 270. I even saw it as high as $3 even in one spot in Kentucky. So it's come up 30 to 40 cents around here over the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. And can you pull that article up again? I want to see exactly because this one I just kind of skimmed through it. They do seem self-explanatory, but sometimes there's a little detail hidden in here. So it's 25%, an additional 25% on to any country that purchases oil and or gas from Venezuela. That's okay. So that's going to put some pressure on what? Who's been buying Venezuelan oil? China, major purchaser of Venezuelan oil. And there's already a 20% tariff on China.
A lot of this is kind of aimed at the China thing, trying to even out the trade deficit with China. So make China buy our oil, make China come to the table and do the things we want them to, so that we aren't just hemorrhaging money to China. And China always makes threats on stuff like grain and different stuff. But at the end of the day, like a lot of the stuff that China would be imposing tariffs on, it's stuff that they need. Whereas the stuff that we're getting from China is not necessarily stuff that we need. Like a lot of that stuff can be sourced elsewhere. So it could be a decent strategy. But again, to this point, I don't think we've actually seen any of these tariffs realistically go into place with any like legitimate like time period. It always ends up in a deal. So, you talk about Trump and the art of the deal and everything. I mean, that's kind of what this first couple months has been, is just him saying stuff. Democrats get mad about it, and then the countries that he is talking to with this stuff end up capitulating, and they make a deal, and it all gets, and nothing ever really happens.
Yeah. It's funny to watch him use these for just like a variety of these. Like, oh yeah, we want to shore up the border, tariffs on Mexico and Canada, and then I don't know why he's so pissed at Venezuela sending criminals over. I guess so. All of his tariffs so far have just been like based on punishment for illegal immigration. I mean, it's a lot of what he ran his campaign on, and it was a big sticking point for the campaign. It was one of those things that it was funny. I had a Facebook memory come up from like 2021 where Democrats were actually like in a lot of these big like national polls and stuff. Even Democrats thought that the border was a problem. And 4 years later, we get to look back at that and be like, oh, like that stuck. That wasn't something that was just happening in like random polling 4 years ago. Like Democrats actually started to realize, hey, maybe the border is a problem. And then they voted based on that in November of 2024. And you see that was in like outpolling from voters. Like that was something that a lot of people really considered to be an important issue. So to use tariffs to try to shore that up, that shows that he's to some extent doing what he said he was going to do. How effective it'll be, I don't know. I think Tom Homan and ICE doing raids and deporting people and sending them to Guantanamo and El Salvador and wherever else is probably more effective than the tariff stuff. But I mean, it's that. Have you seen like the numbers and stuff? I can't remember them exactly, but like there's a significant portion of illegals who are effectively self-deporting because they're worried they're going to get caught and sent to Guantanamo or El Salvador. So they're just leaving and going back where they came from on their own because they don't want to get deported to somewhere else. Right. Yeah. I mean, that is a very real wild card that he's throwing into the mix here. Like if you were in the US illegally, like normally like, worst case scenario, I just get sent home. I just get sent back to Mexico or whatever. And I have family there and I can make it work. But it's like, oh yeah, dude, he might just send you to some other random country as a fuck you.
Right. You might end up getting deported to Venezuela, and then you have to go be stuck with all the gangs and everything else. It's like,
Yeah. It's dude, it's interesting watching him operate. It is very interesting watching him operate. I don't think a lot of people are liking it though. Even some on the Trump side are just like, dude, he might be rattling a little too many cages too early on. I don't know.
that's what I voted for. I want all the cages rattled right out of the gate. Like, just
Yeah, I'm partial to some Schadenfreude too, so I don't really care either way. I try to arrange my affairs so that none of this shit can really affect me. So it's easier to kind of sit on the sidelines and comment on it, and not have to, you don't have to live or die. If your life is you're going to live or die based on what a politician does, that's just a terrible setup. And I would advise you to do whatever you need to do to rearrange your affairs so that Donald Trump or Joe Biden or whoever is coming down the pike, you don't want to have to depend on the government to either give you things or take things away from you. It's just not a really good way to live. Either way, it usually ends pretty badly for you. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents on that, I guess. But yeah, they're certainly going to get to use these erratic tariffs as fuel to sort of, place the blame on him for anything that goes wrong, which I think an economic downturn is sort of baked into the cake already here.
Well, and that's something that you and I talked about quite a bit. It's like anybody that's been paying attention knows the economy is going to take a shit. Like, it can't be maintained at the levels that it has been for as long as it has been. Like, there's nothing concrete propping this thing up. So, like, anybody that's paying attention knows something bad is coming. You just have to, be ready to weather it whenever it does actually come. And I mean, is it going to, they got all up in arms about the egg. Democrats got all up in arms about the egg prices right after Trump came into office. Like, oh, he's been in office 3 days and eggs still haven't gone down. What's he doing? The economy is ruined. Yeah, yes, that's exactly what's happening. But no, like, it doesn't take an economic genius to look at the way things have been going for the last 4 years and realize, oh shit, like, there's going to be a big downturn that happens. It's how do they handle it when it happens, and what comes out of it that's going to be the more important factor.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that like the Republicans just have no credibility on the economy anymore. Like, they're just their spending bill, like, they just spend way too much. They talk about how the economy is doing great, even though it's it's on very shaky ground. Even if you believe their kind of bullshit numbers, they're not great numbers. And it's just, I don't know. I'd much rather have Donald Trump in there than a, what's her face? Kamala Harris. But I don't have much faith in Donald Trump doing the right thing during an economic downturn either. We saw how he sort of handled the whole COVID thing, and he's not going to want to have his record tarnished with a bad economy. So expect them to try to pump more air back into these bubbles if and when they do pop, and then expect the tired typical response from the corporate press and the Democrats talking about how, oh yeah, this is because he deregulated everything and he cut taxes and cut regulation. And the billionaires did this to you, kind of thing. It's going to be, like I said, dude, I mean, as soon as he won the election, I think I did a Substack on how I thought this was all going to play out. And he's just the perfect bag holder for this, for the swamp to sort of see, look what happens when you put in somebody who's not just fucking all about Washington, D.C. this is what happens, and it's complete bullshit. This car has been barreling towards the cliff like on fire for the last like 7 years, dude. It's just like at some point it's either gonna explode or fly off the cliff or both. I don't know.
Well, I'm sure it's probably going to be most of the blame probably falls on Elon Musk for cutting funding to like everything through Doge. Also, it's probably going to be the fault of Trump for cutting Planned Parenthood funding. The Trump administration aims to freeze family planning grants, aka funding directly to Planned Parenthood, according to the Wall Street Journal. $120 million this year, and from what I've seen reported, everything else going forward as well. So that'll be the next reason why the economy is taking a downturn, because Planned Parenthood got defunded.
Right, because you can't get your abortions. I mean, I know they technically do other things for.
Okay, technically, but if you look at their spreadsheet, if you look at like the actual business that Planned Parenthood does, I want to say it was between 80 and 86% of everything they do is abortions. So yes, technically they do other things, but the other things they do is a drop in the bucket. They do abortions, and then they dabble in some other shit on the side just so that they can say that they're not exclusively an abortion clinic, but what they do is abortions.
Yeah, and the one thing I would like to see, because you know how much Democrats love Planned Parenthood and abortions. They want to make sure everybody can get one when they want one. This is the perfect opportunity for them to put their money where their mouth, like fund this shit privately. $100 million or whatever. I guarantee you they probably only need like a third of that if it's from fucking government funding. So we got all these rich Hollywood elites that like to talk about your body, your choice, and all that shit. Well, okay, start stroking some fucking checks.
Abortion is a
Start
human
stroking
right.
checks. Right, exactly. So go ahead, put your money into it and stop demanding that people who think you're literally murdering babies and have to put their money to it at gunpoint. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And once that funding is removed and Planned Parenthood is still around because the Democrats decide to fund it themselves and stand on principle, well, then, you can extrapolate from that a lot of these things government has been funding with your money don't need government funding. If people really want it, they'll find a way to fund it themselves, just like everything else that we have that's not government funded. There's a market for it. There's a way to provide it privately. It should be pretty straightforward, but I guess some people just have such a hard time envisioning things without the government doing it.
Right. And 120 million, that's not a lot of money by government standards. Like you're telling me
no,
that
it's not.
You're telling me that like the rich Hollywood types can't crowdfund that in a week? How much were Oprah and The Rock trying to raise to rebuild their mansions in Hawaii after the volcano? Like,
yeah. Well, to be fair, it is like 3 times what Snow White brought in during its opening weekend or something.
That's a beautiful segue.
So these Hollywood elites, they better start making some better movies.
Walt Disney Studios' Snow White domestic box office debut was off to a very sleepy start, delivering ticket sales of 43 million in North America this past weekend. Already at the low end for a major theatrical production. There was a mix of reviews for the woke remake of the 1937 animated classic. Most of what I saw on the review scale was like the dwarves, and the way that they did the dwarves was terrible. The chick who plays Snow White is uninspiring, and like most damning was Gal Gadot, who was Wonder Woman in the like Justice League and Wonder Woman movies, and is by all accounts a pretty good actress. Apparently she just like totally mailed it in and was abysmal. Like every review that I've seen says Gal Gadot was like the low spot in an already bad movie. It's like wow, like you managed to get a legitimately good actress to be that bad for this piece of shit. Like, man, something went wrong somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I kind of want to go back and watch the original Snow White just because I haven't seen it in like fucking 35 years or something. So, like, I barely even remember that. But this, again, dude, I don't know how many times they need to try to do this before and like lose a bunch of money before they get the message. Like, this chick, by the way, what's her name again? Not Gal Gadot, the other one.
Oh, fuck.
The one who plays Snow White. I'm drawing a blank on it. It's got to be in there somewhere. She was just like the worst PR agent for this movie I've ever seen. Talking about how it's not going to be about a prince saving the fucking day. It's going to be about like boss bitches. It's like, what?
Yeah, she said a lot of really. If you want people to go see your movie, the way she was talking was not very positive towards attracting people to go see it.
And if you have this much disdain for the original story, like, why would you even take this job? Like, I'm sure she's, she got a nice fat paycheck out of it. It's like, okay, but then just keep your fucking mouth shut and collect your paycheck. Don't take the paycheck and shit on the movie. Like, fuck off. She just seems like such a miserable bitch. And these reboots, man, there's nothing original coming out of Hollywood anymore. Like, I can't remember like the last time I heard, like, I don't even hear about these movies. We talked about the Oscars a couple weeks ago or whatever. Like, I hadn't heard of any of them. Hadn't heard of any of the movies. And I'm not the only one. Nobody went to go fucking see the ones that won any awards.
This is pretty damning. In China, ticket sales grossed less than $1 million. Like, Disney goes out of its way to like pander to China all the time. And even China was like, nah, we don't want this. Hard pass. No, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, hang on just a second here.
So it talks about in the article some other like reboots and stuff that they've come out, because they did like the Lion King live action, which wasn't really live action, but they did the Lion King, the Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid. Like, even with all the controversies that surrounded the Little Mermaid remake, it still grossed 100 or opened to $100 million. Like, all of their others have opened to 100 million. And 45 million in opening weekend. That was actually below Dumbo, as it says, the 2019 Dumbo live action, which up to this point was considered one of the worst live action remakes that Disney had done. So, like, that's a pretty low mark to hit especially for a big production like it. They said in the article that Disney spent $250 million to make this movie. Like, if you spend that much money on the movie and then you open to less than $50 million on opening weekend, when there wasn't really a lot else to compete with in theaters either. Like, there wasn't a big debut of anything else. It was like Snow White was the movie this weekend, and people just said, nah, fuck that.
I'm not going to do it. Yeah, you're going to lose people on principle. And it's just like, I don't really want to see a reboot. Like, they've fucked up so many reboots. And the thing with the dwarfs, like, it was because that one fucking dwarf dude, like, was like complaining that they were using real dwarfs for the dwarf. And so instead of hiring a bunch of midgets to do this thing, they used like CGI midgets or something.
Yeah, apparently they, so Peter Dinklage,
yeah, that guy
raised a stink because they were typecasting dwarves into a role that's specifically for dwarves. So then all of the 7 dwarves who had jobs working on this movie lost their jobs because he's a a woke moron that, oh, why is he got to
Yeah.
be a dwarf? Because
And
that's
he's already
literally
made
the
his
fucking
he's
seven
already
dwarfs.
made his fucking money too. Like, what a dick move, dude. What a fucking dick move.
And that's what the this is gonna sound crazy. That's what like the dwarf acting guild came out and they were like, he's already fucking rich. We're trying to get work. Shut the fuck up and let us have jobs.
It's like, dude, what else can you have to, like, you cannot be a fucking midget and play anything other than a midget. It's impossible. You'll have to be a midget. Unless you just get an entire fucking world of midgets and then everybody's the exact same size. Okay, sure. But you're still going to look like midgets on the screen. So, like, you have to be a midget. That's what you are. You cannot play like an NBA basketball player or something like that. You can't do it. You could do cartoon voiceover work. Okay, sure. But, like, you're a midget. That's the role you're going to get cast into is going to be for a midget. So, like, I don't even understand what the argument is here. It's like, we're typecasting. So what, you're going to have a 6-foot dwarf? It's not going to make any sense. It's just so fucking retarded, man. It's so retarded. I can't believe they caved on it. If they didn't cave on that and they said, you know what, fuck you, Dinklage, you jerk off, go take your fucking millions and fuck off. We're hiring these guys because we need dwarfs for this role.
All right. It's
They would
called
have
Snow
earned a
White
lot
and
more
the Seven
respect and
Dwarfs.
probably sold a few more $1 million worth of tickets.
It's called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, not Snow White and the 7 average size dudes.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, it's like, I don't know, dude. It's just so ridiculous. Like the only other way to do that, it would have to be like, you know, a bunch of people your height and then a bunch of people my height to make it look like I'm a midget.
I, at 6'5", know I'm never going to get cast as a dwarf in anything, and I'm fine with that. I don't need to be cast as a dwarf. Let the fucking dwarves play dwarves. Let me play the tall guy. Like, that's sometimes typecasting is correct. That's what you want. Like, like when whenever you have like certain comic book characters that in the movies they cast somebody that's like the wrong size for the character. Like a lot has been made of like Hugh Jackman at 6 foot tall being Wolverine, who in the comic books is like 5'2". It's like, yeah, that's kind of like that one's okay. But when you have like an objectively tall character that should tower over everybody and they get cast by like a dude that's 5'11", it's like, oh, why? Like, you couldn't just pick a tall guy just for the sake of having a tall guy. Like, have somebody else do the voiceover or something if you don't like the way he talks, or like if he can't act, just type, like, have it be a tall guy and then fix it. But don't have a short fucker or an average size guy for what should be a large character. Like, typecasting is
they call it casting for a like. I don't understand what the whole thing just doesn't make any sense. It's like the most retarded aspect of DEI, and that's saying a lot. Yeah, we should have a midget star as LeBron, a white midget. Yeah. I mean, what's the problem with having a specific role that needs to be filled in a movie or a show? It's just like, this makes absolutely no sense. So we just can't have any standards for anything.
Well, and it's why people have stopped going to the movies. It's why people have stopped watching all of this stuff, because they keep either gender swapping or race swapping or just completely like mixing up characters and stuff, especially from like established works that you have characters. This is what they should look like. This is, you know, who and what they are in the book or the comic book or the graphic novel or whatever, the video, whatever it came from. Like, this is what they should look like. And then they just mix it up because they need to, like, they need more diversity.
Well, it's because they can't come up with any original idea on their own. So they think it's like the fucking lowest IQ move. It's like, oh, I can't really create anything of value that's new. But if I take this old thing and I just rearrange some pieces, then it's like I created something of value. And no, you didn't. It's like fucking up a cover song of a band.
And look at how that goes. Like, if somebody does a cover and they do it really well, everybody loves it. And if you do a cover and you really fuck it up, then like that could be the end of your, career for a lot of like musicians and stuff. Like, you don't do covers if you're not going to do it justice. And that's how all of this like DEI casting for remakes and stuff is going. It, like, the more they fuck it up, the more people are like, nah, I'm done with this. Like, I don't want anything to do with it. And we've talked about this before. Like, you can make gay characters and black characters and all of these things be interesting and unique by just making a good character and having them be that thing. Like, but then the problem that Hollywood has is anytime they do race swap or gender swap or do whatever with one of these characters, or create a character for something that's an original show or an original movie, they end up taking that character, and the only thing interesting about that character is the fact that it's a gay black female. Like, that's it. They don't have an immigrant, or like, they don't have anything unique. They don't have any plot. They don't have any story. They don't even have any character development. It's just like, here you go. Here's a black lesbian. You should like this character because it's a black lesbian. It's like, well, but you have to make the character likable, and they don't do that.
No, and they've just gone so far with all this crap that it's annoying. So then they have to overcome that. Even if it would be like a decent character, you're still just annoyed because you know that they're trying to propagandize you on some level. And it's just, it's just bothersome. I don't know. So fucking Snow White. I was never going to see it anyway. I still won't see it. Maybe I'll watch the original. I don't know. Yeah, like, just the classics are the classics for a fucking reason. We don't have to redo everything. Try to come up with your own fucking idea. An original idea would be so refreshing at this point. You can put in any character you want.
Well,
you can write them however you want.
If you're looking to get like typecast for a DEI role, you might be able to go to your 23andMe and be like, hey, look, I'm like 1% African or something, except that like now your 23andMe information might be out there for like literally everybody. 23andMe files for bankruptcy. CEO resigns. The fate of Americans' DNA data is now in a court-supervised sale.
Yeah. I don't know why anybody would ever do this. Like, you're just voluntary. Like, I will never voluntarily give up my DNA just to be safe, just to be on the safe side. You're not going to get it. It will require a court order. Like,
Stephanie did hers. She actually did the 23andMe, and it didn't tell her anything unique or unusual. Basically, think of all the whitest parts of England, and that's where her entire family came from. Like, she is almost fluorescent white, like the palest of the white people on the planet. That's Stephanie's lineage. Like, nobody was surprised by that. She was like, you gonna do it? I was like, fuck no, I'm not swabbing anything for anybody. Fuck that. And other people are like, oh, well, how do you know? I'm like, because my entire family, since the very first Campbell came over from fucking Scotland, is buried in the same cemetery. Like, we all are in one plot. I know where we came from.
Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not that interested in it. Like, it's not really going to change anything for me.
Did I tell you about the guy that I used to work with that his last name is Guerrero, and they thought they were Mexican. Their whole family has always been Mexican as far as like the way they've behaved and everything. Turns out back in like the Andrew Jackson rounding up all the Indians days, his great granddad was Apache, or one of the like scalping tribes. And whenever the U.S. military was like rolling through the West, rounding up and killing all the Indians, they hopped the border and got in with a bunch of Mexicans and just started acting like they were Mexicans. So as to avoid getting rounded up by the U.S. military. So they were actually like entire heritage was Apache, not Hispanic.
Yeah, I suppose if there was a chance that it would get me like some government money or something, like I can get my own casino, then maybe I would try to do that. But there's 0%. I mean, yes, I have a little more Indian in me than Pocahontas, but not much more. Not, I mean, everybody does. So yeah, if there was any chance of something like that coming to fruition for my 23andMe, sure. But yeah, I'm not surprised this company went bankrupt. It's just like, I don't know. It seems like a stupid idea to me. And it's also just like it's just like an extra luxury thing that the US, the way the economy has been for the last several years. It's just not something that people are going to fork over a bunch of money to get a DNA test. Not gonna happen. What's
It was really popular there for a while. I guess it was.
Yeah.
I guess it kind of hit its peak after COVID. I guess people were like really gave a shit because they didn't have anything better to do with their time. Nobody was allowed to go to work or whatever. So they were all sitting around like, oh well, I wonder where I came from. But then people went back to work and everything fell off and nobody gave a shit anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But you'd think they would be able to find something to do with all the data that they collected, some way to be profitable from that. But I don't know. Wasn't there one? Did 23? Did they like branch off and start doing stuff with animals too, like cat and dog DNA testing, or is that a different company?
I think that was 23andMe was doing DNA testing on pets, so you could find out what your pet really came from and where your pet came from. Like, and I mean that should have been like a sign that the business was probably going to go in the tank when they're like, hey, you can swab your dog's mouth and we can tell you like what kind of a wolf your dog came from back, 100 years ago or some shit. Like,
yeah, I just
talk about that.
Right. I mean, not when you can barely put food on your table. You're not getting extra DNA tests for your fucking dogs. It's just not the right environment for that. During some sort of economic boom, sure, I guess, but not during a sort of stagflationary environment we're staring down the barrel at right now. I think people better use their money for things that move the needle. And regardless of your DNA, it's not really going to move the needle.
Right. Like that's kind of if you're bored, it's something fun to know, but it doesn't really affect anything long term. Yeah. That's like, what are you gonna find something out that like, oh, we thought we were Italian, but it turns out we're French, so now you're gonna like stop eating pasta? I don't. How's this supposed to work?
Yeah, there was I saw like a segment, I think it was on Twitter, of it was an episode of Tim Pool or maybe Timcast, I don't know, one of the Timcast shows. There was some lady on there. She had red hair. Never heard of her before, but she was talking about how there's like a wave of these bankruptcies coming, and that's one of the reasons why I flagged that 23andMe thing. She was talking about how we want to play it. I want to play it. That's kind of a long clip. It's kind of a long clip. Basically, she's talking about how all these private equity companies are buying up these companies and sort of fucking picking them dry to the bone and just sort of leaving them in shambles, sacrificing long-term viability for short-term profits. And she was talking about a lot of the arts and craft stores that's been happening too. She thinks Southwest. I don't know if did you hear Southwest is no longer they're no longer doing the bags fly free thing. That was their big claim to fame. Yeah, that was like maybe a week or two ago. They announced that they're going to start charging for bags now, and their whole fucking thing was we never charge for bags, and that's one of the types of things that these private equity companies are doing that might boost some short-term numbers. Maybe for the next quarter or two, things will look up because you're collecting fees on bags. But over the long term, when people stop using Southwest for extended periods of time because they're no longer offering that benefit, because bags are fucking expensive. Like if you got like a family of 4 or 6 people, you got to pay for all those bags. It's ridiculous. That was kind of Southwest's angle in the market. And so they're doing things like that. That's sort of destroying all of these companies. And they're also doing some pretty shady shit with debt, sort of on the level of 2008. We have all this floating rate debt that they're playing around with that's sort of bankrupting these companies. So there's something to look into. It was an episode. Yeah, I think it was Timcast IRL. It looked like that one. And it was floating around Twitter. Maybe I don't know. I'll find it. Maybe I'll circulate it. It's kind of interesting. Sorry, we're reading a comment here for those of you that are just listening.
If I found out I was French, I'd have to kill myself.
Yeah, what if you got some like really bad news?
According to Stephanie's, she's 1% Jew, but I think that's a rounding error. They're just like, we got to do something with this last little bit. And it's like, But that also could attribute to her frugality. So she won't spend money on shit.
Yeah. Which kind of Ashkenazi?
I don't know. Probably. I mean, she is super duper pasty white, so definitely not the kind that has any color to them. That's for sure. That woman cannot get a tan for shit. We go to like to the water park in the summer, and we're there for like 45 minutes, and she's already like blistering red. Like, and then when we leave, she'll burn and then go straight back to white. Like I might burn a little bit, but by the next morning it's just dark. Like I just keep getting darker. She does not at all. She does not take any sun. So it's hilarious for me and my dark complected kids.
Genetics are very fucking interesting. They're very interesting, but I just prefer to observe them. I don't need an actual test to tell me these things.
Well, I mean, this is all gonna the data and everything that 23andMe has is gonna go to like an overseen public sale. How much you want to bet that's going to end up in the hands of a government agency of some sort? Like whatever genetic data they couldn't get off of you, now they can just go get it from buying the now bankrupt 23andMe.
Yeah, right. And I wonder how many people that did the 23andMe were freaking out that Elon Musk got access to their data. It's like,
that would be perfect. Elon Musk
did you give the government a voluntary cheek swab.
That would be perfect. Elon Musk should buy 23andMe just so that he has all of their data. Like for no other reason than like just buy it and don't do anything with it. Just be like, now I have all your data for real. Like,
should we fucking tweet that out at him right now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm definitely gonna do that. That'd just be the greatest troll of all time. Oh man. All right.
Oh, what else we got going on? You want to do your speaking of some people that don't have the problem of not being or of being pasty and making paper look tan. We can do the
cue the music.
Walking down the street.
There we go.
Shithole Chicago, where the wind is cold and the people are low. Broken down buildings, ain't no place to go. But the music keeps playing in shithole Chicago.
Chicago reigns as the country's homicide capital for the 13th straight year. Man, the homicide reign is even better than the Bulls run throughout the 90s.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to multitask here. This is I didn't know they had such a nice streak going. 13 straight years. Can you read some of the stats in there for us?
WirePoint's president Ted Dabrowski views that as a sickness, and he argues that has been allowed to fester for too long. Even as the overall murder rate across the country dipped, Chicago also claimed the top spot for highest murder rate per capita amongst big cities at 21.5 per 100,000 population, or 3 times the levels of Los Angeles and nearly 5 times of New York City. It means we have a real problem and we're sick. Until we get serious, this murder problem is going to be a drag on the city in terms of attracting people, attracting businesses, and worse, it's going to keep chasing people away and chasing businesses away. It's something we have to get our hands around.
Okay, so did you say 8 times New York City or 5 times?
3 times LA and 5 times New York.
5 times the murder rate, the homicide rate of New York. And New York is like 5 times the size of Chicago. That's fucking wild, man.
This is crazy because they talked like all for the last couple of years. They talked about how crime rates were down, murder rates were down, everything was getting better, even though, like we talked about, also that's because a lot of the biggest cities in the country stopped reporting their crime data to the FBI. That didn't mean that the crime data went away. It just meant that the FBI wasn't including it in their national averages. But even as we've seen those drops, they said it's like in Chicago, it's barely down. You've got places like Jacksonville where murders are down 50%. You've got places like Baltimore, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., where it's down 30 to 35%. Our murders are only down 8%. We're just part of the national wave, but we're almost not participating in that national wave.
Yeah, so it's only about 3 times the size of New York's only about 3 times the population of Chicago. Okay, I beg your pardon. Yeah, so there you go, the shithole Chicago, dude. It's just so appropriate. It's just so fucking appropriate. That's just 13 straight fucking years. 13 straight years, and yeah, people like me are going to start leaving. Anybody I know that had a family left around 2020. I mean,
Mr. Prussia's got a good point. He's like, just pivot on it. Don't try to fix it. Just get firearms dealers and bulletproof vest manufacturers in the city. Like, just load it up. We'll do this like Escape from New York style. Just wall the whole fucking thing off and be like, all right, have at it. Like, nobody in, nobody out. Y'all just fucking figure it out.
Well, Justin, there are all those homicides are all from like Indiana, where they have all the loose gun laws, and they're bringing it over to Chicago to kill people.
That's what it is. I forgot that Chicago has such strict gun laws that they can never have guns there. It's all those bootleg guns coming from Indiana.
Yes,
if
if they would just keep all those guns in Indiana, then Indiana would have the 13-year streak.
I mean,
because it's the guns.
Gary is a shithole, but not on the Chicago level.
Yeah, and like you barely even realize that you're leaving Chicago when you enter Gary. Like there's no like sign that really says like "Welcome to Indiana" or anything.
Yeah, Indiana's not claiming that. It's like you get the "Welcome to Indiana" sign after you leave Gary. Like once you actually get into it, and it's like, hey, welcome to Indiana. Sorry about that.
It's like a buffer zone. It's just kind of both Indiana and Chicago.
Sorry about Gary. Welcome to Indiana for real now. They're just on the wrong side of the river. Speaking of, it was funny. So living back home where I grew up, when you cross over into Illinois, there's this giant ass billboard that talks about like bootlegging cigarettes, how you'll be like prosecuted and what all the punishments are for bootlegging cigarettes, because Kentucky doesn't have the tobacco taxes like what Illinois does. So like a pack of, at least when I was younger, I haven't bought cigarettes in forever, at least not in Kentucky. When like a pack of cigarettes on the Kentucky side was like $6 a pack. And then as soon as you crossed over into Illinois, they're like $10 a pack. So people would just like come to Kentucky and buy cigarettes and then take them back and apparently like sell them for $7 or $8 a pack. like that is fucking nuts. And also what's crazy was like the gas stations on the Kentucky side had a limit. You could only buy like 2 or 3 packs at a time. Like they wouldn't let people buy more than a certain number in order to prevent people from like trying to bootleg cigarettes into Illinois. It's fucking stupid.
Yeah, there was definitely that going on the Indiana side too. People used to like big time smokers would like, I don't know if they would like be like bootlegging them. It was just for themselves. Like they would go to Indiana and like buy cartons of cigarettes and just bring them back. It's like, yeah, I forget what the price differential was, but it was significant, especially when you get the sales tax on top of everything.
That's the way it was when I lived up north, because I worked in New Jersey, but my apartment was in on the Pennsylvania side, and I dip. I would never buy a can of dip in New Jersey. Like I went to get a can of dip one time, and it was $10 for a single can. I was like, fuck that. Like I could just stop at the tobacco shop on my way back to my apartment in the afternoon, and it was like $5 or $6 for a can. Like, why would anybody ever buy shit in one of these like incredibly high tax states like that if you have a not so high tax state like literally right there across the state line? Like just drive 10 fucking minutes.
Yeah, especially when it's something that like it's not really perishable. Like you can just buy a bunch of it. You don't have to worry about it going bad. I don't know if dip goes bad. Maybe it does.
I've never kept a can long enough to know.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some sort of shelf life on there, but it's probably pretty long.
Yeah, how much are cigarettes in New Jersey? God, when I lived up there fucking 10 years ago, they're like $12 a pack. I'm like, that's insane.
Dude, it's such an expensive habit in the U.S. It's crazy. Here in Mexico, it's like $3 a pack or something. Maybe $5.
Start getting you to smuggle us tobacco back.
Yeah. It's like, dude, I could take up smoking. It's not that big of a deal.
Don't do that.
$3 a pack. Oh shit. Oh, that's one vice I do not need. All right. Well, I don't know. We have a couple other things that I don't even know if they're really worth talking about. Elon Musk has Doge found another $330 million in SBA loans going to people under the age of 11.
Damn it, my kids are too old for that.
Hey, no, dude, there's one-year-old baby got a fucking $100,000 loan. He said they're not too old. They're not too old. I'm sure there's plenty going under 11 and between like 11 and how old's your oldest?
16.
Yeah. Oh, dude, under the age of 20. Come on. I'm sure there's another couple $100 million in there for the kids.
We'll have to talk about the Signal stuff on Friday because I need to look more into this. I've tried to kind of skim through this article, and I've gotten a little bit off of it, but I feel like there's a lot more to this than just what's here. I need to. So apparently there was a Signal chat that a bunch of the administration's bigwigs were in, and there were some talks of things that were going on overseas in that chat, and a reporter accidentally got added to the chat and then just started like leaking screenshots of all this stuff. And so I need to look a little more into this and see what all is.
It's certainly not the first time we've heard of Signal being used by government employees.
Well, it's
I know there was something during the Biden administration where that kind of
it's end-to-end encryption. It's relatively like that's why they use it. So
yeah, and that wasn't there something like a couple of years ago with that?
Well, and I think Republicans on that too. Like the Democrats really get butthurt over Republicans using Signal to talk to each other, where they have end-to-end encryption and can't. And the
I'm not sure like what the deal is with this either. Like why they're so upset about it. I don't know. Like texting military plans. It's like okay, I don't know. Like what. They should only talk about it in person, maybe.
Yeah, that seems like one of those things that you would want a little extra security on, especially if you don't trust the NSA, FBI, CIA, and members of the military. Like, yeah, you might want more encryption on that. I don't understand. Well, it was like, at some point, I guess during his first term, the Trump administration was doing some military maneuvers overseas that they weren't telling the corporate press about before doing it. It's like, yeah, why would we tell you and, broadcast what we're about to do in like war related stuff? Like, the press should be on a need to know basis, and you don't need to know a fucking thing until it's already done on like everything.
Yeah. I don't know. I like you, I didn't really have time to kind of go through that. I just saw it come across the feed, and Democrats explode over the leak of secret war operations going on and on Signal. I use Signal for a couple of things. No war operations, but that's one of my texting things that I use. Yeah.
I've also just used it for being racist.
It's too hard to like get everybody onto the same fucking thing. It's like, especially when you're overseas, it's just like a lot of people here use WhatsApp, and that was just kind of exposed for not really being encrypted or something like that. And most people in the US don't use WhatsApp. Some of them you can get onto Signal, but it's like it's still not their primary thing that they just use whatever texting app they have on their phone. It's sort of like herding cats, trying to get everybody onto one. So I got to use like 3 or 4 different things. Telegram too. Telegram's a big one. I'm surprised that they're not using that. That's what the terrorists use.
Pete Quinones has a Telegram group. I mean, I'm in that, but I don't really like Telegram's format as much. Signal's pretty user friendly.
Yeah. Telegram. I don't really I'm in like 1 or 2 Telegram groups. But really, like, I don't contribute to them. I just read what's being said. And then I don't know. It's like, I don't know, once or twice a week, I get some fucking stupid bot texting me pretending to be a chick. Like,
I keep telling them,
it's been a while.
I keep telling them send Bob's, and then they get mad at me. I'm like, I miss the good.
Yeah, this beautiful girl who I don't know.
Yeah, I miss the
texting
good
me
old
out of
days.
nowhere, wants to hang out.
It's the good old days when you had like the porn bots. You didn't. Now they all are like trying to get me to buy crypto or get a work from home job. It's like, what happened to the bots that just tried to like sell me naked pictures? Why do they always want now they're trying to get me to like invest and have a job? Like, fuck y'all.
Yeah, crypto scams. Those are the best. It's always like a profile picture of some Asian chick too. It's hilarious.
I just tell them I don't like Asians. They're just like, look, I'm really sorry, but I don't like Asians. That's just not my thing.
Like, Asian in Mexico. There are actually a few Asians here. They all own shops. It's very stereotypical. But it's like, yeah, you get like a fucking message from some Chinese chick claiming to be here in Mexico. And yeah, it's only a matter of time. I usually preempt it. I was like, yeah, what kind of crypto you want me to buy? That shuts them up pretty quickly. Anyway.
Doge, put 100% of your money in Doge.
There you go. Let's see
to
how
the moon,
Doge
baby.
is doing. Hey, it's back up to 19 cents. Got a nice little bounce off of 15.
You could have been a Doge billionaire if you played your cards right.
Yeah. I did make some money on Doge as like a joke. A couple $1,000, nothing crazy.
Yeah, I think I made about 500 off of it, and I just bought ammo. Like, that's all I did with it. I just bought ammo.
If I had held it, like when it first, I don't know, when I was like, yeah, let me just fucking buy some Doge, it'll be funny. I threw like 500 into it when it was at like 2 cents or something. And then like as soon as it like tripled, I just like pulled my 500 out. I'm like, all right, let me see what happens with this. And I rode it all the way up to, what was that first pump? 74 cents or something. That's when I should have sold. But I didn't. And yep. And then once it got up to, I almost got the top perfectly in this last pump at like 44 cents or something. I was like, all right, that's good enough. That's good enough. I waited fucking 5 years. 5 years for my fucking $1 million, and it didn't happen. So I'll take a couple grand and get the fuck out.
Probably a wise choice.
Yeah. Yep. You know, no one ever went broke taking a profit.
That is sound investing advice. I mean, we do not give investing advice on this show, but that is some good advice, regardless.
Yeah. And there's another saying in there that the bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. So when you get too greedy, you end up kind of losing your shirt there. Take those profits when you can. Anyway, yeah, we can get out of here on that. No one ever went broke taking a profit. You got anything going on this week?
No, I talked about it on Friday. I have a article about how Lincoln saved American democracy, and we can too. A very woke, ridiculous bullshit piece from Time Magazine that I found highly entertaining, and that'll be coming out on Thursday.
Oh yeah, I kept hearing somebody else say, "Oh, like Lincoln was like the most popular president by polling, like poll numbers show that." And I'm like, okay, like okay, you're making a great case against democracy. Like,
if Lincoln had run against one, Lincoln was the beneficiary of a non-two-party system. If it had been Lincoln against one other person, he would have gotten his ass handed to him. Lincoln won with like 32% of the vote or something, like because the other two split.
Yeah, they're using him as an example now. I've seen a lot of this going around, like because they want Trump to be like a wartime president. And they're like, well, Lincoln suspended habeas corpus. Like all this, like, so Donald Trump can do that. He'll be like Lincoln, and Lincoln was one of the most popular presidents ever.
Fuck Lincoln. As a Southerner, forever, fuck Lincoln.
Yeah.
He might have been born in Kentucky, but he was born in the Yankee part of Kentucky. Fuck him.
Well, I'm from the land of Lincoln. It's become quite the shithole, let me tell you.
It's working out well for everybody.
Yeah. It's always amazing when you hear like the lists of like the best top 5 presidents of all time, and it's always my bottom 5. Like, oh yeah, those are the worst. Just let's flip this over. It's basically the government food pyramid in president form.
Anytime I see like somebody asking who the best president of all time was, I always say Andrew Jackson just to get a rise out of him.
I saw there's a Thomas Jefferson documentary on the History Channel. Have you checked that out at all?
No, I need to.
I almost started watching it last night, and I'm just like, I'm not in the mood for this right now. But
yeah, that's kind of we've had with, like I talked about on Friday, like we've had so much shit going on. I haven't really wanted to watch anything serious. Yeah, that's one of those. Mark Metz and I are supposed to do a episode on Thomas Jefferson at some point in the next month or two, and I need to, especially since that came out, I need to sit down and watch it.
Yeah, check that out. Let me know if it's worth my time. I'll sacrifice your time. I don't know how you find the time to do all this shit, dude.
I don't ever sleep. That's when you sleep an average of 3 hours a day, you have all kinds of time for all kinds of stuff.
That's true. I say I don't sleep, but I just sleep periodically throughout the day when I can catch a nap. It's like I don't sleep traditionally. I'll put it that way. I'll be up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'll go to back to bed at like 9:30 in the morning. Catch like 2 hours there, maybe an hour after I put this podcast out. I'll go to the gym. It's a weird fucking schedule over here, but only for another couple of 2 more weeks, maybe 1, 2. Oh, shit, 3 more weeks. All right, fuck. 3 more weeks. 3 more weeks, and hopefully I'll be back where I belong with less noise. Although it wasn't too bad this afternoon. I don't think you heard anything coming across, did you?
Not really.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Anyway, all right, that's enough. Thank you for listening. We will be back on Friday with a brand new episode. Until then, you know what to do. Just keep on peddling that so-called fiction. Peace.